Before we can use MySQL, we need to install the MySQL Community Edition. You'll do that by going to this URL, selecting your operating system, and clicking the installer that's best for your machine. Once you have this installed and have set the root password via the installer, try using these commands. You can try MySQL, not found, or MySQL.server. If you're getting these errors, it's likely because the command line doesn't know about this tool you want to use. Specifically on Mac, if you go to System Preferences, you should see that MySQL is installed, but the command line tool doesn't recognize it or doesn't use it yet. What's wrong? Well, we need to update our path for this command line tool. The easiest way to do this on Mac is to access your paths with sudo nano etc. paths. And this would be the password for your machine that you'd type here. And you'll want to add the following two paths. These are the paths where MySQL is located, so you're letting your terminal know that this exists. We'll type in user local MySQL bin, and then user local MySQL support files. I'm using Nano to edit this, but you could use Vim or another editor. So I'm doing Control-O to write it out, and then Control-X to exit. Now, if you try typing MySQL again, it's still not going to recognize it. We need to restart our terminal. So I'll do that and meet you back here. In a new terminal window, let's do MySQL.server. Great, the command is recognized. Before we can log in and start creating databases, we need to make sure our server is up and running. This is the server where our database is going to live. You can start and stop your server through the system preferences here on a Mac, or you can use the command line. My server is already running, so I'm going to clear this up and try to stop it with sudo mysql.server stop. And it shut down my server. To start it up again, I could go sudo mysql.server start. Great. With our server up and running, we can create our database and add some tables. You could do this using a Python application like we did for SQLite. You could also use a GUI such as MySQL Workbench, or you could do it here in the terminal. We're going to use the MySQL shell to create our database. Of course, before we can create anything, we need to log in to MySQL. We'll do that using the root user. So let's clear this up and type in MySQL-U root, because we're logging in as the root user, and then -p. This is where you're going to enter the password for your MySQL instance. So when you went through the installer, you came up with a root password. That's what you're going to enter here, not the password to your machine. And once you do that, you should see this screen, and that means you're logged into MySQL. From here, we can create databases. So let's create our first database. We'll do that with create database, and we're going to call it projects. And there's our database. This database will represent the collection of projects we want to accomplish and the tasks associated with each project. We'll be working with this database in the following lessons, so stay tuned.